Hello, how are you, brother?
I'm doing good.
How's been your
RJ
week?
Billions.
Good. How's been your
It's
week?
been busy.
Busy making money?
Amen. 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 So be it. But
Right.
yeah, we thank God for that. Yeah, it's been the market is definitely getting a whole lot busier right now. So
Absolutely.
thank God for that, finally.
So some people still don't believe it's actually busy. They feel like, it's still, for sure, it's still a seller's market. It's still a buyer's market rather,
All right.
right? But we are seeing traction. Things are changing.
Absolutely.
We spoke to a broker today, and said yeah, he just, within this week alone, about 12.
Yeah, 12 peer
So
approvals.
PR approvals
Yeah,
already.
people are getting ready.
People are getting ready. People are getting ready. People are getting, in. And like I think we've said this over time that it's always a cycle, right? And then we're in a very good cycle for those who are probably looking to buy their first home property or, you know, first investment property. Like we said today about condos, I think you literally told me that people should actually dive into condos right
Yeah, I think
now.
everyone should be thinking about condos right now because I know we said yeah the condo market is crashing, but on the other end, it's like if prices have come down considerably, then why not buy right now, right? Because it won't be down forever.
Yeah,
Won't be down forever.
yeah,
So
yeah,
now I think it's a good time to consider getting into the market,
for sure, for sure.
especially as a first time home buyer.
Home buyer, yeah, yeah, and like I always tell people that, only if you don't have that intention,
Right.
to buy. If you've always thought of buying, you probably have your down payment. This is a good time.
And you've been thinking
And you've
about
been thinking
it.
about it.
Should I buy? Should I not buy?
You don't want to miss out from this pie, right?
Yeah, sales have increased. What was expected, right? It was
No wonder you're
expected.
smiling. I kind of saw that the way your reaction is kind of very different. You're proud now.
It was expected, right?
Right.
And it was expected because rates once everyone knew that once rate announcements
Goes
start to
down,
happen and
yeah.
start to come down, then that would create an uptick in the market,
Absolutely.
right? It's not as aggressive as people thought it would be before, because usually when they reduce interest rates, then there's a lot more offers on the market and stuff like that. But still, it has given some kind of like buyer confidence
Yeah.
back to a lot of people.
Yeah.
And people like stepping into the market
Stepping
now.
into the market,
Yeah, so
for
that's where we're
sure,
at.
for sure. And I think, the interesting part for me is the fact that, it's always Bible, like we always say as believers, time and chance happen to them all, right? So what you've done in preparation, this is the time when it actually comes into life,
Yep.
right? Because if you haven't been preparing for, which means you haven't been saving, you haven't been thinking about it, everything we've been sharing over time, it might be very difficult for you to want to, make that decision at this
Decision
point.
now,
Yeah,
right.
yeah. And something very interesting we're going to be talking about today before we go too far. I want to welcome you today to see your YLJ podcast
Yep.
with Joe
And with Nasser,
and Nasser.
Thanks for joining, guys.
What do we do here?
this is where we teach Canadians and everyone who is interested in creating wealth. Not for everyone, but if wealth is on your mind, we are talking about how real estate can help you achieve that.
Absolutely, absolutely. In the rightful way, right?
Absolutely,
And then you could
always.
build either a short-term or long-term strategy around it.
Absolutely.
And today we're going to be having a very interesting conversation. And again, this is for everyone, but more around investors.
Yeah.
It feels like something interesting is happening. Right?
A lot of interesting
Is it
things
like
are
a cheat
happening.
code is broken? It feels like a cheat code has been broken, right? Yeah.
So it's sort of like, we're just talking about how the market is picking up, and like I was sharing with you earlier today, I feel like the new things that we're seeing happen now is kind of like punishing, I won't say the wrong people,
Yeah.
but in fact I feel like it's punishing the wrong people, to be
How
frank.
do you mean about that?
So there's been a conversation for the longest time about how housing in Canada is like unaffordable, which is true.
Yeah.
Because incomes are at a certain level and the house prices are like
It's not comparable.
exactly the ridiculous level, as at least in comparison to previous, let's say 20 to 10 years ago, right? And so for that, obviously the government has to do something about it, because if everyone is saying houses are unaffordable, then the government has to do something, right? So the segment of people that we see that are getting punished, if I can use that word, or getting basically that a lot of measures are being put in place is against investors.
Yeah.
Investors. And that's like for your regular mom and pop investor, right? So meaning, okay, the person already owns like a primary residence, like their own property. And then now they just want to have like a second rental property, or a third rental property, or the fourth one as well. And now I know different people have different opinions as to, okay, how many properties should somebody have? Because someone's thinking, oh, people can afford housing, but you want to be buying 4 for yourself, right? Again, that's an argument I won't get into. But for that everyday investor now, a new rule is coming into effect in 2026.
2026.
Yes.
So why does it always seem like every new year there's always like the new year comes with something new? Why don't you just affect it this year?
It could be to give people time,
Enough time to prepare,
right?
adjust,
Yes.
and then
But then more often than not, I think it's even more about the banks, right? Because remember that banks already have their systems in place, their processes and procedures. So I believe it's in order to give them time to start shaping up those policies at the back end. So by the time the rule finally comes into effect and it's rolled out, banks are ready to start underwriting people, meaning they're looking at your income in that light. So I'll let you speak on what that rule is, or what's the change that's coming for our viewers.
I mean, I think one of it that caught my attention is what the OSFI is doing. And I'm sure you're very familiar. Again, people that they said no more double income. Like, you can't use a double income anymore.
So what does that mean for the average person?
So basically, okay, so think about it this way. You have a property that gives you a rental income. And then what has happened typically is that you'll find people using that same income, okay, to refinance and then get new properties, qualify for, like, people have same rental property. So I have a multi-unit, right? And then based on the fact that it's giving me the income that is coming from it, right? And then it's building, of course, equity for me. I'm using that same income, that same rental property to qualify for more property. So you find people
that income to qualify for
more.
2, 3,
yeah. So
4,
basically, if you backtrack, you find that all they've used is just one property,
right?
And they probably have
or the same income
just because of their LTV,
right?
Which is their loan to value ratio, right? It's kind of very, very good, right? Now, what the policy is saying is that is not happening anymore. You can't use one property to multiply 2, 3 properties, right? And again, it's very interesting because, and if you look at it holistically, and you want to ask yourself the question, what's the value of the property? Because the way it runs typically is, if you want to get a mortgage, right, it's always like, particularly for investment property, right? They look at the value of the property, look at the equity you build, look at what income is coming from that property,
right?
And then the bank will finance you again because you have enough weight or you have enough room, as the case may be, right? And then people have taken that advantage. Of course, I mean, I'm not going to blame people, right? It's the fact that things have been done rightly. I go to the mortgage looks at what my property is generating for me.
I have the income,
I have everything, and it's making sense, right? Now, but this is a beautiful part of it, which I think is a flip side of it. Now, those that have jobs, probably your paid employment,
right?
And then typically you get promotion or you get increases. Maybe you become a manager, senior manager. It's not applicable to them.
Oh, it's not?
It's not applicable to them, yeah. So you can still use your income increase as long as it qualifies. The times 5 multiplier effect, it gives you more room. So what I basically say is the fact that, let's say when you bought a property, you were earning 100,000 and you bought a property of maybe 400,000. Now you're earning 200,000.
You can't use the first 100.
That's gone already.
But you can use the additional 100. But doesn't that complicate things for banks though? That's a lot of mathematics that banks have to be doing at the back end now.
No, I think it's pretty very straightforward, right? Okay. I don't think it's so much of calculation because, for example, property was bought 500,000.
Right.
At the time you bought it,
your income was like 100,000. Yeah.
Life has changed. Maybe you're married now. Yeah. Or at the time you were single by the time you bought it, or even family life your family income has you've been blessed by God, things have taken a new shape, right? And you have more income, right? So they are saying that for those category of people, we're fine because it's pretty very great. It's pretty very, very great that it's based on the qualifying power. But for those that are using one property, I mean, that's so interesting, right? So you could just sit there in your house. You have like we spoke about in our last podcast, right? So you have a multi-unit. Yep. The upper floor is where you're living, and they're using the lower floor to generate, rental income. Now, people have used that to get 1, 2, 3 properties. Basically, just using the bank's money, to create wealth for themselves, which is not bad in itself. I mean, at the time, the policy was good.
But the question should be, okay, those extra properties that they are buying now, are those properties generating enough income to carry the mortgage expense on the property?
So what you are looking at is post approval.
Right.
Bank is saying before approval.
Even before we even approve.
So I get that part of post approval to say, okay, you know what, you've been approved. We're not going to be basing that on this current property you have. As long as you can pay your mortgage.
Yeah, exactly. Because sometimes you need to push. So sometimes people are buying, they are buying multiple properties with one income, but their whole play is, okay, once I close on that property now, I might do some renovations or something to push up the rental value. right? And then now the property is demanding a particular rental amount that can now cover the mortgage.
Yeah.
But now if you are stopping me from even buying it in the first place, then that whole plan doesn't even work. So I have to have the money beforehand before I even buy the property. That's what they're telling investors now.
I mean, I think the whole intention is just to control the market.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's control.
Just to put some control in the market.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if you look at it typically, that is what has flooded the market with some of the properties. Now, meaning that person, your bargaining power is very, very high. Okay.
Informally. Okay.
Your bargaining power is very, very high.
Right.
Because again, it's not based on any street qualification. It's just based on the property you have and what the property is generating for you, right? So it kind of makes it much. So even the property that probably should have gone for like 700, you're willing to go for 800 because all in your mind is you know what it's going to generate for you as income. And it's not your money you're using anyways, right? So it's much easier for you to like go all the way and negotiate and then, keep rolling it over and over and over. But bank is saying, we understand that. The government say we understand that, but we need to put a stricter control measure to ensure the fact that if you're buying a property, in Canada, you actually can buy it.
And the property is qualifying
on its own merit.
Got you.
On its own merit, right? As against just using one single property to continuously multiply your value of your asset and then flooding the market, with so much of, because it's not really real if you think about it.
Yeah, it in actual sense, in terms of risk management, it makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely for the banks.
As I just speak it for people that represent investors, right? I can see why investors be like, oh my gosh. But from the bank's perspective, it makes sense because it's sort of like a risk management play, right? Because why would I let you buy 5 properties to just one income? Then when you lose that one income, and the properties cannot carry themselves,
what happens?
They have to foreclose on 4 properties. Yeah. So I get it from that perspective, but it's just, I don't know. It's weird. But also you have to look at it in the way that, look, investors were also providing housing for people, right? Because investors were the ones that are taking the risk to say, you know what, even though they have just one income, they're looking at the property and they're saying, I'm using my income, I'll do the renovations, and then I'm using that to provide housing for people. And most investors were not even cash flowing, if we're being completely honest. Like at least 67% of investors in the GTA are not cash flowing. They're not making more money than they're paying in mortgage already. And maybe that's what the bank doesn't want as well. Who knows, right?
I know the very interesting part of it. I think you sent this thing, you were the first person that sent it out, and we had a conversation about it, and I had to go, to do some reading, and I'm still even doing, reading about it to really understand more. And one of the things I could, decipher from it is the fact that oftentimes people are actually using. So let's give an example. You have property A, property B, okay, and you want to get property C. Mm-hmm. Now, most times, people use that property A to keep qualifying for B, for C, for D.
Are you saying like the income from those properties?
No, not even from those, from just one property.
Right.
From the A, which is like, because you've paid A down, right? So A has more equity.
And let's assume A was like your primary residence.
Your primary residence. So think about it this way.
Okay.
A is the oldest you've gotten.
Right.
You're paying equity. I mean, you're paying down the mortgage on A. So A is having more equity.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you bought B. Okay? Now B just started. So you can't use, and you want to get C. So you can't use B because B doesn't have enough equity.
Any equity in it. Okay.
Does it make sense?
Yeah.
So you're using A again to get C. They're saying no. If you really want to qualify, 2 things you can do. Get your B to be strong enough
to qualify for the
next one, and then with additional income, not A anymore. Now the impact is that it's going to extend the time in which you could get C.
Yes.
Because you would then need to create enough equity on C, right, to qualify for C.
But the premise for that is, it speaks to an argument that people make online that says first-time home buyers cannot buy property because of investors.
Yeah.
Because by the time you extended the timeline, it just basically means that, okay, you know what? There are more properties on the market for first-time home. But I personally do not think that's not why people are not buying properties, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't impact, I'm just saying it doesn't impact affordability in any way, because people are assuming that, because of investors, that's what makes houses in Toronto unaffordable, but that's not the case. It's supply and demand.
But it's a mix of both.
It could,
if you think about it, it's a mix of both, right? So for an investor, it's a game of numbers.
Exactly. So investors are not overpaying for properties.
Yeah, of course, but they're overmaking on properties.
Yes.
Okay, which still
it's possible.
which is
It's
a great
possible.
leverage, right? So
Yeah.
they're underpaying, they're underpaying, but they're overmaking. If that's right, my viewers, does it make sense?
Yeah, I hear what you're
Which
saying.
an average person cannot do. But if you think about it, for me, that's a business. I mean, that's a business sense for me,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
That's
It
not my
is.
problem.
Yeah, it
right. If I'm a
is.
business person, all I want to do is to leverage, my business strength, right? And then I'm bringing in money to invest, right? And I definitely have to make profit,
To make the profit of it
right?
as well.
And
Yeah.
profit is based on what the market at that time is offering, right? But again, it can be very, very bullish.
Yeah.
Because
true.
I mean, and I think
There are definitely some bad actors in
exactly,
every market.
exactly,
Yeah,
exactly,
so
exactly.
So I get that part.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
So,
yeah.
and I think it has a flip side as well.
Right.
Because for an investor, I want to cash out.
Yeah.
Right. I also want to sell quickly and move on because for me, it's a game of numbers. The more I do, the more value I get. Right.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
it's not a one size fits all. So say that investors are the problem. They are the problem some way. But again, for every economy, people that drive
but
the
there
economies
has
are
to be
investors.
investors. There has to be
Absolutely.
people with
They
that
have to be,
entrepreneurial
to come
drive.
in and be
Yeah.
able to turn things around.
Turn
So
it around,
so I think
true.
for me, it's a very interesting policy. And we really want to see how it turns out. And I think
it's
there's
gonna be
also the other
interesting.
part of that policy. Maybe you want to touch on that.
Okay, so that was once. This is why I said investors are the ones that are taking taking a lot of punches. Because now, so that's even on the qualifying side, right? In terms of mortgage rules.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, I saw it was an advisory that I believe it's the HCRA, Home Construction and Regulatory Authority.
Okay, yeah.
So these are the guys that basically regulate everything that has to do with new construction homes in Ontario. So now these guys are now saying, they brought out an advisory that said, if someone, actually they already had this already, but if somebody buys a new construction property, and let's say you as a buyer, like you already have a property now, so what people do sometimes is they have their primary residence. Like you said, they've been paying it down for a couple of
Yeah.
years. Let's use a visible example. And then they take out equity from their primary residence, and they put it as a down payment, right, on their new construction property. So now they have that new house. What people tend to do in some cases, if they have that clause where they can assign it or they can even close on it, they don't move into the property. They just sell it right after it closes. They just sell the property.
Yeah.
Now the new law that the HRA is saying that if you set it like that, for you to do that, you need to get a license from them.
Oh,
to do
wow.
that.
Okay.
So now sellers need to get, and this is you even as an individual buying a new construction property, because people have gotten fined. There was a group of 4 families, I believe. I saw that four families.
For 400,000.
They got fined about roughly 400,000, right? Was that 361 or something like that?
400,000 fine.
Fine, because you're seen now as a seller, as a vendor, and for you to be selling homes,
You need to get registered,
you need
right?
to get registered with
Capital gains for call. I
as a
mean,
license.
that's other matters to
You need to get a
government.
license. So I'm like, wow. So now they first capped investors on the qualifying side, and then now they're also saying you can't just buy a new construction property like the way people were buying 2 or 3 new just buy, and then once you close, just flip.
Do you know, I always wonder how someone would tell me, I have like 5 properties.
Yeah,
So this is
Yeah.
the secret.
yeah.
We've caught you.
Until we've got you.
Got you. That's the way you've been doing it. But
Because people were buying new construction
Yeah,
properties.
yeah.
So it's so a lot of changes are happening now. But what this just tells me is that, it just tells me that the government is saying, you know what, we need to stop this whole habit of, okay, someone has like 1, 2, 4 new construction properties, and then you have first-time home buyers are even trying to get in the market
and they can't get in, yeah.
So they're trying to say, okay, you know what, we're going to try to limit investor activity. Now, if that is good for the real estate market on the long run, only time will tell. But it's interesting to see all these regulatory changes coming into place. I don't know, what do you think about that?
I mean, I think I'm only saying 5 implications.
Right.
Okay, we're going to be seeing tighter underwriting.
100%.
Underwriters are going to get more tight on you, particularly for investors. I mean, for new investors, it might be pretty very straightforward.
Right.
Because again, it's pretty very straightforward. They can see what it is. But for existing investors, I think it's time for you to buckle up, and be ready to face, I mean, I think I see people losing their property, because by the time it's time for them to refinance,
which was wondering that
Yeah.
what happens
yeah,
during like
at-
renewals.
at that point, yeah. So I feel that by the time you want to refinance, this is. I mean, for now you can enjoy it all,
Right.
right? Because laws are not made to take. To take what we call retroactive effect, right? It's always retrospective, like it goes forward from wherever the law is made. So, but the part is the fact that at the time you bring yourself towards the law for compliance, the law will get caught up with you. So for people that probably want to refinance, it's really going to be. I'm seeing a hit there. Because then that rule will be applied on you, which means that they will have to tell you that, based on the property you have, we can't just use this income anymore. You need to then leverage other income that you have, probably
That you have as well.
personal income,
Right.
or which again will go back into your debt ratio. Many people have a lot of debt they've taken, probably credit card, line of credit, all those things. All those things are then begin to come into play, before the lender would approve.
So for viewers, I think basically what that means is, I mean, if you're in a position to dispose of an asset, we need to sit down. You need to sit down with someone to basically take a look at your portfolio.
As an investor,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and see. So because what you don't want is that, let's assume you have 4 or 5 properties now, and you only have the income to maybe qualify for, let's say, 2 or 3 at most. Then you might need to dispose of at least 1 or 2 assets, so at least you have that cash flow
yeah,
as income to keep you stable.
yeah, and I think it's also going to impact over leveraging. Okay, I mean,
Which is what they I
which is
believe,
what-
which is the initial. I'm sure that's the goal that they had in mind.
Yeah.
Because now foreclosures are the highest they've been in a while.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Because of the whole interest rate increase, and then people were, a lot of people had their properties on the market. I mean, we've discussed on this podcast about like 2 or 3 that we know personally, right, that went into foreclosure just because
Yeah.
of that over leveraging, right?
Yeah, yeah, and again, we also see, there'll be reduced leverage now. People will then stop having to put so much of pressure, on themselves. And the good thing I see here is the fact that it in some way to stabilize the market for real investors, those that actually do want to invest,
Right,
right?
right.
You then have to use your money to invest.
And then you'll be more critical with your numbers.
Which is what bank is saying, right? To say we don't want to take the risk anymore, right? So once we qualify you and it doesn't work, if you want to get a competitive property, then you have to use your income. Maybe you have to then be very liquid, which will be very, very difficult to do because I mean, for you to be liquid of 400,000, 500,000, you then need to go to FinTrack to show where
How money is coming
where
from.
the money is coming. So I think it's just to put a lot of tight security around how people purchase property. The intention behind it, because what we've seen over years that people are just leveraging the bank mortgage to build wealth for themselves,
Right.
And so the government is saying, we understand nothing is bad, you've been doing it right, but we are trying to put in, just like what we had for people that sometimes investors were stopped from coming in, people that don't have work permits. I mean, if you don't have a PR or a citizen, you can't buy anymore.
It's still in effect, right?
It's just a
Yeah.
control measure to kind of take away pressure from the market, right? And then again, are there opportunities here? Yes, for sure. I see opportunities coming, for more investors who actually want to come in with cash into the country to invest in the country. Is going to be an opportunity for them, because once the bank are a little bit drawn out of that opportunity, then you need to open up the market for investors to actually come in. So what I'm thinking in my head is this might be another opportunity. Let's say before we allow investors come in, we want to clean up our house.
Put stricter
Let's
measures in
tidy
place.
up things
Right.
and then create a proper avenue. But the question for Canada is how long? It's always my question. How long?
Because there's a lot of pressure. There's pressure.
How long? How long do you
There's
want?
a lot of
How long?
pressure,
I feel
yeah.
like people will always find a way around it, because when it comes to mortgage, so many things comes into it.
Yeah.
We have the tier B bank, the tier C banks who can take more risk.
More risk,
and
right.
people again.
But I think, based on what I saw, I mean, he said all banks will be forced to do
will be
that.
forced to do that.
So I'm not
yeah.
sure if that also applies for like all this like mortgage, like the commercial banks and things like
Yeah.
people that don't deal with like retail banking, like
Yeah.
the regular 5.
Yeah.
So who knows if it will apply to them as well.
Yeah. So you won't just buy a property today, flip it tomorrow. I think you also spoke about the one that you have to live in the property. I mean, there's a timeline in which when you buy, you can sell.
Oh yeah, so so that was about the new construction property,
Yeah.
right? So for that particular rule, you'd have to stay in the property. Yeah, the property has to be occupied before you sell it. If not, like I said, you would need a license to sell if you never lived in the property.
Yeah.
And if you don't get a license and then you're caught selling, then you might be fined some heavy amount. So they want you to stay in that property, but I believe it's at least a 1-year period, which should, again, that has a little gray areas to it, because how do you define preoccupy the property?
Yeah.
Like if I put a bed in there and I'm sleeping there maybe once or twice a week, does that count as me occupying the property? So do you see where there's a gray area with that
I
particular
mean, there'll always be a gray area around
Right.
it until when we get to interpretation.
Right.
Right. When that's the way when laws are made, you can't see it all holistically until when you begin to apply the law, you find some lacuna. You find some opportunity, people are taking advantage of it, and then you begin to strengthen the law. At least at the barest minimum, the policy is out.
Yeah.
So just people are more aware now. So
Well,
again,
what's
for some
going
people,
on.
they'll be more careful, and for those that still feel like I can take the risk, they'll take the risk. The law will be interpreted on them. And
They'll say what
and they
happens,
will
yeah.
have clear. That's the way it works.
Because I was on a webinar where they were talking about this on Ontario Real Estate Association, and then what the representative from HCRA was saying was that what they found was that a lot of people for this new construction properties were maybe just changing their address to the new construction home and changing like the address on their driver's license, but they didn't physically occupy the property. So for those people that they caught that did that, they fined them.
Okay.
They find those people because the idea is to want to it's a way of people evading taxes if you think
Yeah.
about it, right? Which is not right, by the way, right? So what they were trying to do was that after they changed their address and their driver's licenses, they know that if they sell that property, then it counts as a principal residence, which
Yeah.
means it won't be taxed.
Yeah.
As opposed to now, where if you are licensed, if you're selling a property, then you would have to pay capital gains tax.
Capital gains.
So you can't escape that because it's like it's like an investment, an asset that you're selling, so you need to pay tax on it. So again, government has come to collect.
I mean, for sure, that's what government do. So I think to wrap it up, I mean, this is the framework that I think, just to give more clarity from a strategy perspective, is buy property one with your income.
Right.
Property two, when you want to buy property two, right? Property two will be sold for you with the equity on property one. However, if it was a multi-unit that you purchase, let's say upper floor is where you stay or lower floor, whichever way, but you have a rental income on that, that will be used in addition to your pay, to your salary. Okay,
To count for you.
to count for property two. So which means you can still get property two. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
However, to get property three, okay, instead of you using property one, which is the typical framework to qualify, because property one would have gained enough equity, right? They're saying you have to wait a while because we're going to be working with property two.
Unless property two is already cash flowing and
It's
making
cash
money
flowing,
from day
exactly
one.
from day one, right? So then
Which is highly
we then use property two and your income, not property one anymore. So basically, they're saying that it just can't be your property alone. That's the summary. It can't just be property that you have alone. Income has to come in for you to keep having. And okay, the question is, how often does your income change? Do you get what I'm saying? I mean, what's the possibility of moving?
or even if it changes, what's the range?
What's the range,
that
right?
is
So
changing by?
that's the
Yeah.
framework. So property one, you get with your income. Property two, you want to get it to property one equity and your income. Property three, right? You have to then wait for property two to grow its own equity and then show additional income and then be able to qualify for property three. As against property one having to carry all the weight to get property 2, 3, 4,
5.
all the
So
way.
what I sense is, we've always been advocates of getting the right information, the right knowledge, before you buy or invest into real estate. But now more than ever, or coming months, like by 2026, by God's grace, we need to be very very educated in terms of investing in property.
Yeah.
Like it's pulling us as agents even to a higher standard as well, because now you just can't give any of it. It's not just buy 2 or 3 new constructions and then you just assign and you just say,
Why do you
no.
sound like you're buying
No,
buy
no.
one get one free?
So like those days of just those days are long gone, because now they're pulling everybody to a higher standard, both investors, realtors, banks, lenders, mortgage brokers,
all eyes, everybody's on deck to
has
ensure
to be
that
on their toes right now.
Yeah.
Yes, which is good. It's
Yeah.
good. I mean, just it's more interesting. So let's see how things pan out.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I think for me, it's difficult to speak holistically what the outcome is going to be.
Because we've never seen.
We haven't even seen it, right? Because
just tell us what's to come.
when this is just our own idea analysis of what we think the law or the policy is trying to get at.
Right.
But again, as we go into the new year, even before the new year, we'll give more information as more information unveils.
Right.
More brokers are speaking about it. There's more experts clarity, and we're able to get more insight. For us, it's still very gray.
Yep.
But we have an idea of what the
coming.
problem has been. What we think they're trying to get at, and what the likely end goal is. Yeah.
I'm just curious to see how this will affect like condos, because like most builders or developers were thinking most of their, I guess 60 or 70%, the report came out that 60 or 70% of condos were bought by second-time investors. So now that this whole thing is coming into play, I wonder how that's going to impact the condo market.
I mean, we already have a lot of trouble already. So
Yeah,
bringing
on
this
that
on,
side, yeah.
bringing this on condo market, I'm saying that I don't want to imagine the kind of pressure because basically what it means is that this matter will be completed next year.
Yeah.
That'll be due for possession next year,
Yep.
and you want to go to the bank to get approval.
The qualifications,
the bank
rules
might
have
be
changed.
applying this rule.
Exactly. So what does that do to supply of property? I feel like this is just going to limit supply.
Yeah.
Because developers are not going to be releasing. We can't release units if we know that people cannot qualify for the units.
Yeah.
So what does that do to the real estate market on the long term?
I mean, maybe this might be a call that even for developers, because currently what developers do is that developers don't deal with your approval. They don't deal with the bank.
Right.
It's just based on you, your down payment, your structure, right? Then they come in when it's time for you to take possession.
Yeah.
Because all they want is their money.
Yep, they
So
don't care,
this
yeah.
again might have to be for developers to come on the table and let's all work hand in hand
And
as
see how
against
we can
and see
make
how
things
we
work.
can make things out so that we don't get into what you're trying to
Yeah.
to say, because we're already seeing a lot of it right now. So many properties can't even close.
Close, you're right.
I mean, its market is there, but again, it's give and take. It's either we get flooded, or there's a pause to what we have and let the inventory get consumed. Before, because I think that let's get in, I mean, we have a lot of inventory already. Can we consume this inventory?
First of all, right?
First of all, and then let's see how we can then go from there. But again, you have to do your, sustainable plan ahead. You don't have to wait till when the market is off and then you want to start building.
So last question before we wrap up this episode.
I'm enjoying the conversation.
I know. So based on all these rules coming into effect, if you had to give a guess, where do you think the market is heading price wise?
Price wise,
Yeah, if you had to give an educated guess.
we're going up. I can tell you. I
agree.
I can take a guess. I mean, point me in my face, right? If by next year fall, the numbers are not different. It's
Especially for single family homes.
absolutely, it's going up.
Yeah, it will be interesting.
Oftentimes people feel like when we say this thing because we are realtors, and we're just trying to scare people in terms of go buy right now to
Right.
get my commission. Honestly, beyond our commission, we provide advisory services.
Sure.
And we've had clients that by the time we're done speaking to you, our commission will be that you don't even need to buy.
Yeah, this might not be the right
It
time.
might not be time for you. So it's not really so much about the commission. It's really so much for you to get the information, because this is a big investment you're making,
Right.
right? And it could also turn into a death if you're not very, very careful.
Sure.
Right? So it's just for us to ensure that we're guiding you holistically all through the journey, which is why it's called your real estate journey.
Yeah.
Just beyond just realtor, realtor Joe or realtor NASA.
For me as well, I hold the same sentiment. I think it's headed upwards. And the reason is very simple. I think all these rules that the government is putting into place, they're trying to tell us something.
Yeah.
That we're about to open up the market.
Absolutely.
But we don't want it going to the same people that's always gone to.
I've always gone to.
Right.
We want to
we're
give
trying
more
create
opportunity
give more
some
opportunity to
people.
more people.
Yeah.
So yeah. I think
Because
prices are
again, from
headed
the
up as well.
financial part, they can say that the money is just recycling. It's not like it's not new funds coming in.
True.
It's just the same old funds
The
that is
same
just
qualification,
just
the same
qualification,
thing,
just going
the same
through,
income and all that.
just going through. So yeah, I mean, anyone doubting if the market is going up, but let's see till next year fall.
Yeah, we'll know.
And then we'll give you data. But I can see clearly it's going up, because I mean, the moment you have inventory not as much in the market anymore as it used to be, the moment you have interest rate going down,
Coming down as well.
some people are ready. I mean, they can afford to spend the extra 10K that you don't want to spend,
True.
because you can't afford it, because you're not qualified for it. But the moment there's a 1 basic point, 50 basic point, 5 basic point shift on some people's income, it's a big difference.
Yep.
And it opens up opportunity for them. Yeah.
Awesome.
And again, with New Year, people get new salary bump a little
And
bit.
people are excited about it. People
Yeah.
start setting new goals.
And
to
then
buy property and
then part of
everything,
it
so.
is, they just want to.
Yeah, I'm excited for towards the end of this year for sure. Still, because we're seeing 2025, we're still excited for this year.
We're still
And hey, if
excited.
you want to make a move before the year runs out as an investor,
Never say never.
maybe now is the time to jump in before those stricter rules coming in 2026.
For sure.
Yeah, so
Thank you so much for joining us today. It's still your Why How J podcast with Joe.
and Nasser,
See you on next episode.
take care, guys.
Bye.